Okay, so we're going to take some notes and we're going to do some construction work here, so follow along. The two things we want to talk about today are congruent line segments, and we're going to introduce this idea of congruence to you. This is an important geometric idea that we're going to be using all school year, so this is our first introduction to it. And then we'll talk about our next construction, which has to do with finding the midpoint of a line segment. So let's start with just some basic definitions here real quick. So we're going to say this. We're going to say congruent segments have equal length. So congruent line segments have equal length. Now I've got some line segments here drawn in this box over here. We're going to label those up. So we're going to call this line segment AB. We're going to call this line segment CD. We'll call this line segment EF. And we'll call this line segment GH. So we've got these four different line segments here, and I'm going to tell you some information about these line segments. I'm going to tell you that line segment AB is 30 millimeters long. And I'm going to tell you that line segment CD is 18 millimeters long. And I'm going to tell you that line segment EF is 30 millimeters long. And I'm going to tell you that line segment GH is 18 millimeters long. All right, now listen, given the information that I just put up on the screen, you should easily be able to determine which line segments have the same length as other line segments. And so then we can use this geometric language and say, line segment AB is congruent to line segment EF. And that's what I'm going to expect you to be able to say, both with your words and then also when you're writing it out in math language. I want you to use this math term, congruent. Okay? Now, when we write it out, there's a specific way that we write this out. I want to show you how to do this because you're going to need to be able to read it and write it as we move forward. So if I wanted to say line segment AB is congruent to line segment EF because they have the same length, I would write it like this. I would say line segment AB and use my proper line segment notation. So I'd start with AB and then I'd have a straight path above it, no dots, no arrowheads because it's a line segment. We have a special symbol that we use for congruent. It's an equal sign, but then it has this little curvy hat on the top of it. Okay? I'm sorry? No. About would be if we made the equal sign itself both wavy lines. So this is the symbol for congruent, and I'll explain the difference in just a second. And then we would say line segment EF. So you would read this sentence right here like this. You would read this sentence, line segment AB is congruent to line segment EF. Okay, line segment AB is congruent to EF. Now you'll notice the congruence symbol has an equal sign buried in it, right? So obviously I'm not using the equal sign, and so then that indicates that there must be some difference between congruence and equal, and there is. Let me try to clarify that for you now. Listen carefully because it's a small difference, but it's an important difference in geometry, okay? Congruence has to do with objects, equals has to do with numbers. If I want to say that two numbers are exactly the same, if I want to relate two values together, like 12 is the same as 12, I would write 12 equals 12. But if I want to say that this line segment, this triangle, this circle, is the same as this other line segment, triangle, or circle, then I would say that they are congruent. So congruency has to do with objects, equals has to do with numbers. It's a slight difference, but it's a really, really important difference, especially when we get more detailed about writing some things out. And we'll have some assignments where I'm going to expect you to be real accurate on your writing. And so if you're talking about congruence versus equals, it's going to matter the way you write it down. So in this case, we've got line segments. We're talking about the segment itself, and the other segment, we would use the congruence language. Okay, there's another pair of congruent line segments up here, right? I want you to write down the congruency segment on your notes right here. So you write down the congruency statement for the other pair of line segments that have the same length. So you write down the other one up here, right here now. Go ahead and give it a shot. So you're writing right here what you think the other congruency statement is for the other two line segments. See if you can do it. Pretty easy. You should have come up with line segment CD, again with your proper notation, is congruent to line segment GH. And congruency works like equals, so if you wanted to flip-flop them, if you wrote GH is congruent to CD, that's fine. Line segments, the orders of the letter doesn't matter, so if you said DC is congruent to HG or GH, or that doesn't matter, that's okay, that would all still be accurate and correct. The idea is that you understand that you're naming these line segments and saying that they're the same length to each other. Now, there's another notation that I need to show you right now that I could tell you line segments are congruent to each other without even giving you any numbers. In other words, I could leave off this 30 millimeters and 18 millimeters. I could leave those off, and if I have certain markings on here, it would also tell you that these line segments have the same length, even if you don't know what that length is. For example, if I wanted to say that line segment AB is congruent to line segment EF and not give you any numbers, I would just do this. I'd put a little hash mark through AB, and I'd put another little hash mark through EF. And when I do that, within the same problem or on the same paper, what I'm saying is that any line segment that has one mark through it has the same length of measurement. Even if you don't know what the numbers are, when I put this single mark through it, it tells me this line segment AB is congruent to this line segment EF. Now I have these other two line segments here, right? And I want to say that CD is congruent to GH, but I can't just put one mark through here, because if I put one mark, then what I'm saying is CD is now congruent to AB. That doesn't work. It's not. It's clearly shorter, right? So yeah, we got to put more than one mark. So in this case, we're going to put 2 marks through CD, and we're going to put 2 marks through GH. So by putting those markings up there within the same problem, now we're saying that CD is congruent to GH, and AB is congruent to EF, but AB and CD are not congruent because they have different markings. AB has 1 mark and CD has 2. Okay? And so we're indicating not just similarity, but also difference in the lengths of these line segments. And you don't always have to start with 1 mark, and you don't always have to go to 2 marks. You could start with 2. You could go right to 4. It doesn't really matter. There's no consistency with that. Generally speaking, I tend to start with 1 and go to 2. But you know, I mean, I think that's probably just the linear part of my brain. You don't have to necessarily start with 1 marking, okay? So that's the basic on congruent line segments. And again, this word congruent is going to come up for the rest of the school year. So it's important that you understand that when we talk about congruency, we're talking about shapes being exactly the same, okay? And so in this case, since line segments only have length, they have the exact same length, okay? Any questions on congruence? It's pretty straightforward, right? Yeah. Oh, good? Okay. All right. So let's talk about constructing this new midpoint that we're going to be looking at, this new construction. So you're going to need your compass with a colored pencil, and you're going to need your ruler. So let me get my tools out here. So I need to grab my ruler. There's my ruler. And I need to grab my compass. Okay, here's what I want you to do. Let's not wander off. Let's not wander off. All right. So what I'd like you to start off doing right now is I want you to measure the line segment that I've given you on your paper. And I want you to measure it with the ruler, and I want you to come up with a number in centimeters. So look at your ruler, grab your ruler, and look for the centimeters side, which is the one that goes up to 30. Okay, so use your centimeter side. And I want you to measure your line segment. So you would start at 0 and measure your line segment. Mine comes out to 7 centimeters. I think yours is pretty close to that. The copy machine got a little off, so, you know, but you can see that, you know, maybe it's 7.1-ish, somewhere in there. So we'll call it good at 7, all right? So we're going to say that we have this line segment at 7 centimeters, all right? Everybody got that kind of, you see where that is on your ruler? All right, so here's what we want to do. I want you to do a little measurement swoopy, but I'm going to leave the point a little off to the left, and you'll see why later. So kind of swoop it like this, a little bit off center. And we're going to say that this line segment is 7 centimeters long. Okay, so do a little swoopy, but leave that point kind of off to the middle a little bit. All right, time to start looking for a midpoint on this line, and here's how we're going to do it, all right? Pay close attention. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to take your ruler and your compass, and I want you to set your compass at an opening of 5 centimeters. So you're going to put the tip of your compass at 0, and then you're going to measure your opening so that it comes out here to 5 centimeters. So we want a 5 centimeter opening on our compass. Okay, 5 centimeter opening on our compass, and then righty-tighty that down because you're going to use that measurement a couple times. Okay, so 5 centimeters on your compass. Okay, once you have a 5 centimeter opening on your compass, I want you to come up and put the tip of your compass at one end of the line segment. So centered at one end of the line segment. And then we're going to create a full circle with a 5 centimeter radius starting at that end point of that line segment. So you're going to create a full circle all the way around here that's got a 5 centimeter radius. From the end of our line segment, you're going to create this full circle all the way around like that. All right? Create a full circle all the way around with a 5 centimeter radius. Again, just a reminder, when you're using the compass, try to only hold the black pointer tip when you're moving the compass or the paper. Okay, if you're gripping it or if you're holding the pencil, the chances are you're going to move it. You might get a weird adjustment. All right, once you have your 5 centimeter circle created, you're going to take your compass and you're going to go, now you're going to take the point of your compass and you're going to go to the other side of your line segment, but you're going to keep the same 5 centimeter opening. So keeping the same 5 centimeter opening, you're going to set your point at the other side of your line segment and you're going to create another full circle with a 5 centimeter open all the way around from the other side of your line segment. You're going to create another 5 centimeter circle all the way around. So now we've made 2 circles of equal size and they overlap. Okay, 2 circles of equal size, both with a 5 centimeter radius, and they overlap. Now, using that same colored pencil that was on your compass, just grab the colored pencil portion of it. You don't need to take it out. And I want you to put some points where the circles intersect each other. Put a point where the circles intersect each other. Put a point where the circles intersect each other. Where do the circles cross each other? So that would be right here, right? So this is where the circles cross each other. My circles just moved. I didn't want that. So the circles crossed here, and the circles crossed here. So I'm going to put 2 points like that. So I've got these 2 points where the circles crossed, okay? All right. Next task at hand. Reset. I want you to do this. I want you to switch compasses with someone at your group so you have a different color. Switch compasses with someone at your group so you have a different color. Okay, if you can get a different. If you can't get a different color, don't worry about it. But if you can, switch compasses to get a different color. Okay, right here. There you go. Okay, so switch compasses to try to get a different color. All right, here we go. This time, you ready? This time I want you to set your compass opening to 4 centimeters. So you're going to change your compass opening. It was 5 centimeters. So now I want you to change your compass opening to 4 centimeters. Okay? So you can see up here on the screen, I've changed my compass setting now to 4 centimeters. So change your compass setting using your ruler to 4 centimeters. And then lock that down at 4 centimeters. So get 4 centimeters on your compass and lock it down. Okay, and hopefully you have a different color on there. And with a different color, we're going to create, again, 2 circles, one centered each at the end points of that line segment. So I'm going to start here on the left, and I'm going to put my compass point, try to get it right in the same spot you got it last time. And then I'm going to create a circle all the way around. This time it only has a 4 centimeter open, so it's going to be shallower than the other one. It's going to actually fit inside. Should fit inside perfectly all the way around like this. So this is a 4 centimeter circle, 4 centimeter radius. So we'll come all the way around there like that. And then I want to do another one with my compass tip at the other end of my line segment. So I want to get my compass tip again at the other end of my line segment, and I want to do another 4 centimeter circle. Another 4 centimeter circle all the way around, just like that. So we're creating 2 more circles now of equal size, but different size than we first created. Okay, so 2 circles of equal size, but different size than we first created. And using your same colored pencil that you just did with your compass, put points where these circles intersect each other. So where do these 2 circles intersect each other? So these 2 circles, right, intersect here and intersect here. Now I want you to notice something kind of interesting. We use 2 totally different sized circles, and yet, what do you notice about the intersection points? Yeah, they're kind of lined up, huh? That's kind of weird with 2 totally different sized circles. Let's do a third one and see what happens. Let's do a 6 centimeter circle. So let's take our compass and let's set it for 6 centimeters.
For what?
6 centimeters. Yeah, oh no, sorry, switch colors. Yeah, thanks. Switch colors, yeah. If you can, switch colors. All right, so I'm going to open this up, and I want 6 centimeters now. It'd be good if you can. If you don't have different colors, that's fine. You know, I only have so many colors in my pencils, so. Okay, so we're going to do 6 centimeters. Go ahead and lock that down this time. 6 centimeters. So this is going to be bigger than the original one, right? All right, let's do our 2 circles, each centered at the end points of our line segment. So I'm going to do a 6 centimeter circle all the way out here like this. So 6 centimeter circle. I'm going to go all the way around. And then I want to do it again from the other side as well. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do a 6 centimeter circle from the other side. All the way around, 6 centimeter circle all the way around again the other side. And then again, we're going to mark the intersections of the 6 centimeter circles. So you can see that we have this intersection point, and we have this intersection point here. All right, take your ruler, and you should be able to line up all 6 of those intersection points with your ruler. So we'll use our regular pencils for this. So grab your regular pencil. And your ruler should be able to line up all 6 of those intersection points. And then we're going to take our regular pencils and we're going to draw a line that hits all 6 of those intersection points all the way down like that. Okay? All right, now, I want you to put a point. I want you to put a point where we just drew that line. I want you to put a point where that line we just drew hit the original line segment. Put a point where that line we just drew hit the original line segment. So that's right here. So put a point right here. Okay? Now check this out. Take your ruler, and I want you to measure the original line segment again, but this time I want you to measure just from here out to the point that you drew where they intersected right here. So just measure this distance from here out to here in centimeters. Okay, so measure in centimeters from the left end of the line segment to where that new line crossed. you should get about 3.5. About 3.5 centimeters, is that about right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so let's mark that down. So let's say this. We're going to say that this section, this new section of the line is 3.5 centimeters. And actually 3.5 is exactly half of 7. So that means we know then that this side over here is also 3.5 centimeters. Because 3.5, from our segment addition lessons we've been working on, right? If we take 3.5 and add it to 3.5, we should get 7. So then we could put some congruency marks on these new line segments we made, because now we know that the distance from the end of the line segment to this blue dot is congruent from the blue dot to the end of the other line segment, so we can put some congruency markings on there. And since that blue dot split our original line segment into 2 congruent parts, we would say that that's the exact middle of our line segment. That's the dead middle, or what we call the midpoint. And so this is how we find the midpoint of any line segment. All right, now listen carefully. I'm going to summarize what we just did, all right? See if you can watch the pictures up here, so you kind of picture what we just did and listen what I say. So we're going to take and we're going to construct 2 circles of equal size that overlap each other. And where those circles overlap, where they intersect, the line that runs down through that intersection is going to pass right through the middle of our original line segment, giving us the midpoint of that line segment. So we're going to use these 2 circles. Now the question is, why does that always happen? Well, there's a much deeper answer to that we're going to have to explore a little bit more, and you're going to see that there's a lot more relationships in here that are going to build out as our class goes along, okay? But for now, we'll just have to suffice that to say that this is the case, that this is the midpoint here, okay? All right. So let's summarize this out in writing. So now you're going to grab your regular pencil, and down the bottom of your paper here, I got about 5 sentences that I need to write down here, and so you're going to want to get those 5 sentences down right here. So let's say this. So down the bottom of your paper, we're going to say this. So I'm going to give you basically the instructions of what we just did here, okay? So we're going to say, to find the midpoint So to find the midpoint of a line segment, we are going to construct 2 overlapping, we want them to overlap, 2 overlapping circles of equal size. That means they have to have the same radius. 2 overlapping circles of equal size. Centered, so the centers of the circles are centered at each end of the segment. Okay, let's pause for that for just a second. Let's pause right there so you can get caught up. And then I want you to make the connection between what you just did and what the words say. So I want you to think about what the words say and think about the activity that you just did, because you're going to be doing this activity for practice in just a minute. To find the midpoint of a line segment, you're going to construct 2 overlapping circles of equal size. That means they have the same radius, so you use the same compass measurements. And those circles were centered at each of the ends of the line segment, right? So when we created those circles, the center point, or the point on our compass, was the end of the line segments. All right, now last thing we want to say here is the line that connects where the circles intersect each other, that connects where the circles intersect each other passes through the middle of the original line segment. Passes through the middle. And we'll say passes through the middle. In other words, or i.e., the midpoint. That would be the point in the middle of the line segment, the midpoint of the original line segment. So once you have these two overlapping circles, the line that connects where the circles intersect, so you need the circles and they have to cross over each other, the line that connects where those circles intersect is going to pass right through the midpoint or the middle of the original line segment. Okay? So hopefully now as you go back and you review over this, you'll be able to read this statement and then remember what you were doing and make the connection between the words and the actions. That's what's going to help you as you move forward here. Okay, I'll give you about 30 seconds and then we're going to move into practice. All right, here we go. On the back of your paper. Now, here's where you're going to combine. Here's where we're going to combine what you did last week and what we learned today. So we're going to combine both constructions. So I'll help you with the first one to remind you of what we're doing, and then you do the other two, okay? So follow along with me on the first one just to remind you of what you're doing. Okay, so let's read the instructions. It says construct one copy each of the given line segments in the space below. Make sure to leave enough space to complete the activity. You're going to have a bunch of circles, so you want to have some room on your paper, okay? And then label your new segments. We're going to use one pair of intersecting circles to construct and label the midpoint of our line segment copies, so the copies we make. And then we're going to write in some congruency marks and show which of the new line segments have equal length. Okay, that's the goal. So last week when we did constructions, we made copies of line segments, right? We started with a working path, we put a point, we measured it with the compass, we marked it off down the bottom, we made a copy of the line segment. We did that last week, okay? We're going to do that now, and then once we do that, we're then going to find the midpoint of that line segment. Okay, so let's do some labeling up here. Let's give these line segments some names. So we're going to call this one R. We'll call this one S. So RS. So we got line segment RS, and we'll call this one PQ. Line segment PQ, and we'll call this one line segment VW. Okay, line segment VW. All right, so we're going to do RS. So we'll do RS together, okay? So the first thing I want to do is, and if you want to swap out to a regular pencil, if you'd prefer to use a regular pencil, that's fine. Or you can use the colored pencils. I don't care. That's up to you. All right, so you ready? We're going to do RS, and I'm going to recommend you do these like sort of one kind of off to the maybe upper left of your paper, and then one to the right, and then one to the lower left. That way you have a little space to work. So I need a working path. So I'm going to start by just getting any old working path going here that's longer than RS. Okay, so I have a working path that's longer than RS, and then I want to take my compass and I want to measure RS with my compass. So I'm going to set my compass up here at RS. So this is really the review right now of constructing and copying a line segment. That's what we're doing. So I'm going to measure my compass with RS. I want to open it up to about here to get it RS. And then I want to put a little arc up here to make sure that I've measured RS appropriately. Okay, I need a starting point on my line down here, so make sure you put a point on your line down here. And then you're going to bring that locked compass setting that you measured RS with, you're going to bring that down here. And then you're going to make an arc down here so that you can copy RS. You put it wherever you want, but you know, I mean, I'm kind of putting mine over here just to kind of accommodate for the circles. Yeah, to be cool, exactly. All All right, so this is going to be my new RS. Let's just call it R sub 1, S sub 1, okay? So we'll just call our copies with the little sub 1s on them. So you can do a PQ sub 1s and a VW sub 1s. All right, and then let me clean up here just a little bit. I want to erase just a little bit on my line here. So I'm going to sweep this off here just a little bit, but I'm going to leave that arc because that's what tells me that I know that you measured it with the compass, right? So I'm going to leave my arc there. Okay, next thing I need to do is I need to create my circles that are going to do my midpoints. Now, I want you to think about something with me real quick. Watch up here on the screen. So I'm going to take my compass here, right? And I want to make some circles that are going to overlap. Now, just watch for a second, okay? Just watch up here for a second. If I make my circles and I try to guess right at halfway, my circles may overlap or they may not overlap. If I go much shorter than this, think about the circle that's going to come up here. Don't draw this, just watch. If I draw this circle right here and then I do another one on the other side, they're not going to cross over, right? They're not going to overlap. So these circles are going to be too small. So in order for me to come up with a circle that's going to overlap, I really need to choose something that's a little bit more than halfway. So I don't want to even go really halfway. I want to go a little bit more than halfway. You could go all the way out here, and you could just use that original setting if you want. Or you could go somewhere in here. And again, like we saw from the examples on the front, it doesn't matter what size circle you use. As long as you use the same circle on both sides, they're going to overlap. So in this case, I'm going to pick something like right out here. Just ballpark it, all right? Whatever. I'm going to go with this. And I'm going to make a full circle all the way around my point R. All right? And then I'm going to go on the other side, and I'm going to make a full circle with my point S. So I've made my copy. And I only need one pair of circles this time. I don't need three. I did three on the front side just so you can see that no matter what size circle you use, that it always works out. So now I have my one pair of circles. Now I can take my ruler and I'm going to line up my points here on my ruler. I'll do the best you can. It's going to be a little tricky with this ruler because this ruler has snaps on it, but we'll see. See if I can get there. That's pretty darn close. That's about as close as I can get with this ruler right there. So if I put a little mark on my line segment now so that I know my ruler where it is, I'm going to put a little mark right here. So now I know that this point right here is my new midpoint, and I'm going to label that, I'll call it T. I don't have a T up there yet, right? So use a letter you don't have. And so now I have found the midpoint of segment RS, and then the last thing that I want to do is I want to put some congruency marks on here. And I'm going to say that RT is congruent to TS by putting some congruency marks on there, like that. So RT is congruent to TS by putting some congruency marks. So the things that I would need to see to know that you're using the compass right is in constructing the line segment, I'm going to need to see your arcs. In constructing the midpoint, I'm going to need to see your circles that intersect right over the midpoint, like we did on the front of the paper. And then we'll build onto this. There'll be other things that you'll need to do as we add to these constructions. So the two constructions you have are copy, construct a line segment. So you'd arc it off and you'd arc it off. That was the first one we did last week. Now we've added to that by finding the midpoint by constructing these intersecting circles. And again, however you choose to build those circles, that's up to you. As long as they overlap and you can clearly see their intersection points, you can use your ruler to find the midpoint of that original line segment. Okay, you have to do the other two on your paper somewhere. So you copy the other two line segments like we just did here and then find the midpoints of those two line segments. That is the challenge that lies before you.